Welcome, Earthlings. This is Aaron Abelman. My pronouns are he, him, they, them, and I'm recording this from the original territories of Huichin, ancestral land of the Chochenyo Ohlone, otherwise known as the Bay Area. I'm so hyped to be dropping in for this Welcome to Earth podcast. Most importantly, I'm really grateful that you're here. Whether you're making food, you're on a road trip, you're just looking to improve your relationship with yourself, your family, and the world, this is the place to be because you are the place to be. I know you're probably wondering, what is this show all about? And is it gonna be about aliens? So if the little beings that contain our DNA yet have their own personalities and mission are considered aliens, then your guess was totally correct. But anywho, this podcast, for real, Welcome to Earth, Adventures in Modern Family Life, was inspired by my daughter and my journey of becoming the best father and guide I can be. So with that, I really hope you'll enjoy these conversations, this storytelling, and this magical adventure. I'll see you on the other side. Peace. Super honored and excited to have Tajay Massey with us, one of the founding members of Souls of Mischief, a phenomenal MC, producer, culture creator, curator, filmmaker, businessman, just amazing human, and most importantly, a father. So grateful that you're here with us. And thank you so much again for being with us. To kick us off, I just wanted to, ask a little bit of your story and your journey into hip hop and ultimately to becoming a family person. And again, I know that that's a huge question, so feel free to answer it how you wish, but a little bit of storytelling to hear some of your origin and how you came to be the amazing person that you are in the world.
Well, thank you for having me. I don't know, hip hop, I've been rapping since about 1983, so about 8 years old. And it just was kind of what the kids did when I was young, that was the thing. Hip hop was all the rage. It's very hard for people to understand what hip hop meant to young people in my age group, especially those of us who may not have had like any formal music training or anything like that. But I would say the closest thing that's as big as hip hop right now would be like the internet. Not even social media, but like the actual internet. Like it was all encompassing. Wow. It was something where you wanted to know everything about it. You wanted to participate in all the ways, graffiti, DJing, b-boying. It's really hard when something becomes mainstream for people to understand what it meant to those of us who participated in it when it was first starting as a subculture. So, I mean, I just really was into hip hop, and rapping became the easiest thing to do for me and A+. So we've been rapping together since 1983. And, as we kept moving, we joined forces with Dell and Opio and Casual. We all went to elementary school together. Also put his first album out in 91. And when Dale got on, he put the rest of us on. And it's been history ever since. So, we came out with our first album in 1993, aptly titled 93 Till Infinity. And we've been doing it ever since. We've been indie since about 95. So the majority of my career, we've been indie artists, which has been a blessing because it's been able to support us and sustain us, unlike, I think, being on a major label. And as far as fatherhood, I had my first child young. I was 22. So obviously very, very young. My daughter now is 23, and we've sort of grown together. She still lives with me. I mean, she graduated from college and moved back home because of the way times are right now. Just it's very expensive in the Bay Area for kids to move out on their own. And I was married between 2010 and 13, and I had another child from that marriage, as well as I had two stepchildren, one of whom I'm still very close with. The other one is a lot older. She's 20, about to be 25, so she's older. And I don't know, I've been enjoying being a father pretty much the whole time. I think at first, because you're so young and you think about the quote unquote fun you're going to miss or opportunities you're going to miss and things of that nature, especially with me being an artist, I didn't understand that this was something that was going to enrich my life. And so for, I think, a early part of fatherhood, I didn't get to enjoy it the way I should have because I had the wrong attitude. And that doesn't mean I didn't participate. I participated fully. It wasn't that. It's just like, instead of seeing the lessons that I was learning and the responsibility that it was bringing about inside of me as tough, you know what I mean? Oh, this is rough. I could have seen it as what it was, which was an opportunity to grow and really understand what life is about from both sides. So I think that as I've grown and become a dad, I have all girls too. So as I've grown and become a dad, I've gained a huge appreciation for it as, I mean, it's probably the most important thing. I mean, definitely the most important thing, probably the most rewarding thing in my life. And I think of myself probably as a dad first, and then artist and entrepreneur and architect and all these things second, definitely. You know, I mean, I think only thing more important to, I guess, an individual in this world is probably your spiritual connection with a higher power. And that's so personal that the parenting thing, which is not personal, it's social, is paramount, you know, in importance, because it really teaches you how to interact with humans on Earth, each other, you know, and how I think if you're not a parent, of course everybody is raised, right? And well, many people are raised. So you learn sort of society's morals and mores and ways of interacting, but parenthood makes you, I think, a lot more empathetic and compassionate and understand the way that a lot of people operate and interact in the world. So been rapping since 83, parents since 97. Here we are in 2021.
Amazing story and incredible insight too about the ways in which parenting can change us. And I love the notion that it is, if embraced, or even just whatever your situation is, that it is so paramount. Do you think that family life and parenting, how are those seen in culture and in media and in the hip hop world? How can we improve those archetypes or potentially move toward a more positive and fulfilling family life, or even just, how do we lift up parents to really acknowledge? I mean, we have, people like Cardi B and great parents like Jay-Z and Beyonce and all these mega celebs who are, integrating their families into their public life to some extent, but for the most part, it's kind of, I don't know. Would you say, are there examples out there, or how could we get better at lifting up parents and family life in this world today?
So I would say, obviously, one would be being a lot more respectful of women in general. I think that hip hop is a reflection of our mainstream society. Our mainstream society is incredibly sexist, and incredibly patriarchal and chauvinistic and macho and all these things. And hip hop, in some extent, in some respects, is a hyper extension of that. So, but I don't think that's necessarily in the non-stage portion of it, just in the stage portion of it. I think a lot of these guys, you look at Ice Cube, a bitch is a bitch, but he's a great dad, right? You know what I'm saying? He's married to one woman this entire time. He has, his son is well raised, et cetera. So, or Snoop Dogg, right? He's married to one woman this whole time. Maybe he's not the best example, but I'm saying, as far as the subject matter doesn't always match the person's actual actions in real life, right? A lot of rappers are married, have families, et cetera, and are still sex symbols and still make misogynistic music and these things. And they've made the flip in their head that, okay, I'm not talking about the mother of my children. I'm talking about bitches, or, you know what I mean? Excuse my language, or I'm talking about women who I don't respect. So I think it's important for us to either say, hey, this is a persona. This is not real. Nobody expects, Robert De Niro or Al Pacino or the guy who played the Mac to be like a chauvinist, woman beater or anything, because they're actors, right?
Right.
So perhaps either saying, hey, this is a persona that I'm manufacturing and this is not real, and this is playtime, or just actually being more respectful towards women in the music and the subject matter. But that would be the first thing I would say to make it more family friendly. Then beyond that, I think talking about family stuff. I mean, Tupac's talked about, a lot of rappers have talked about being parents and fatherhood and motherhood and all that,
Sure.
but it's not something that, except for maybe a song like Dear Mama or All That I Got Is You by Ghostface or something like that, very rarely does that hit the radio, you know? So our mainstream culture is all about just extreme and flash and shock and all that. So I don't know if it's conducive to family programming.
Wow.
But if we, at least as participants in hip hop, are real with our fans and say, hey, you know what? I put on this suit, I talk this shit, I make these faces, I say these names, but in reality, you know, my kids go to private school. I'm with the mother of my child. We live in a home in the suburbs. I don't curse in the house. You know, I don't use drugs. These things. Perhaps that's a step towards at least people acknowledging that, hey, I can enjoy this stuff and I can be into it and it can be as wild and crazy as it needs to be, but it's fiction. However, with hip hop, we have this whole obsession with things being real, which is, I think, manufactured. You know what I mean? It's not real, you know?
Wow.
So I say number one, respecting women. Number two, speaking upon the separation between the reality and the fiction. And then number three, just choosing as your subject matter, sort of. And when I say family friendly, I don't mean PG. I just mean family centric, like speaking on how you are a father or how you are interacting with your kids. You know, I've got a song on my new album called Shine, and it's about just my daughters and how I feel about them and all that. And I've never even talked about that. You know, the majority of my subject matter with regard to women is, you know, sort of player-esque and you know, maybe trying to attract women or something like that, or telling a story about an experience I had with women, but it's not been about my experience with my children. So, I mean, hopefully I'll add to that canon of family-centric music. And I don't mean family-friendly like rated G. I just mean family-centric.
Yeah, I'm gonna be sending. I'll be sending you some beats shortly here after this.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll be. But you're right. Like and I love those three as a framework. Those three principles that you brought up. It's deep and it's also clarifying too. And are we just obsessed with sex, life, and money, or can we as a society move forward in terms of our priorities and who ultimately is making those systemic choices? I think I would argue that our cultural creators forming the stories that and the music, the soundtrack and movies for our lives, that those are actually the architects of society. And yet it takes the business class and the executive class to say, okay, I see that there's a market there and we'll put some resources behind it, to move. It's interesting.
I think fortunately with the way the internet has become, it's kind of been decentralized. So the power is not completely in the hands of certain the business class. However, the business class that is exploiting the culture creators right now has a view of the culture creators as brutes and as sexually promiscuous and as disrespectful and as unintelligent and as non-family types, and this is vestiges of slavery and Reconstruction and all that, so I don't think that they're even thinking about the best interests of society or the best interests of even the artists when they're putting this stuff out. This is not just in hip hop. I mean, you look at movies.
That's right.
It's hyper violent. It's hyper sexist. It's hyper sexualized. These are all over the top things that I think the people who are funding the culture creators. So if the culture creators are the architects, then this would be the developer or the client, not the client. I guess the client would be the people inhabiting these spaces or
the
consuming
fans, the audience.
but the developer or the people behind it who are telling the architects what to build and all that kind of stuff, they don't even believe that those people who are creating culture to a large extent, especially in hip hop, I don't even believe they're fully human. You know what I mean? Like I still think we're there as far as people's mentality. And I mean, when you see a man, get choked to death for 10 minutes, 9 minutes, and die, and nobody is outraged about that because whatever this guy did prior, or when you see an officer shoot somebody in the back and then leave a gun and then that officer gets free. And I'm not trying to politicize this. I'm saying in reality, I truly don't think that, especially with hip hop, because we're seen as street culture and not even, executive or useful parts of society. We're seen as entertainment. I don't think that those people who are paying for the manufacture and release of this culture believe that the people making it are fully human beings. Maybe it's moved to like 98% now rather than 3/5. But I don't see it. I don't see that compassion. I see it with the fans. I see it with the people moving. I see it with regular every day. I'm talking about those people who are just like, hey, these people are animals. Let them do animal shit. Let's get paid off of these monkeys. You know what I mean? I mean, I really, I've been in the
that's real though. But
I truly believe that, it's unfortunate.
But you hit it on the head in terms of, I mean, what kind of mentality would create a system that has perpetuated such atrocities, and now to the point where, that's what's going on with, I mean, whether it's climate change, the fate of our species is wrapped up in what you're talking about in terms of our values and mentality and where we put our resources and our investments and how we're actually moving attention and that our attention is backed by intention, right? So that's a really interesting, it's just an interesting conversation thread. And I think it's crucial to consider, my daughter was born 4.5 years ago, and 45, it was 10 days after 45 came into power. And, I'm thinking a lot about, like everyone else, just the grief and devastation of how do I actually move forward in a world that is so counter to the health and wellness, or even just the happiness and joy and connection of what life could and should be, and
that, especially with regard to us raising women, children, and the concept that an actual sexual predator who's been on tape, who's been sued, who has multiple lawsuits and payouts, can ascend to the highest office in our nation, even after, and the fact that women are so desensitized and downtrodden that they would actually vote for this person as well, or maybe when some of the women are so, they care about racism more than sexism. I have no idea. But the concept that type of human being can be lifted up to the point of occupying the highest office, being our quote unquote leader. I mean, this is what I mean. Like, it's not just the architects and not the architects, but I say the people pulling the strings.
Yeah.
I don't think they have humanity's best interest in mind. I don't think they have women's best interest in mind. Yeah. I think they have they want themselves above everything. And this is not a racial thing. This is more like those with power want to maintain power and basically party until all the resources are gone, and they're not worried about what happens afterwards. And so they will put monsters, like literal monsters, into power all over Earth, because 45 is no different probably than 90% of our presidents. They've all probably not been cool. I mean, our president started off owning human beings. So they're, it's not like this is just a great group of a long list of great guys. I mean, our presidents have sanctioned dropping nuclear weapons on whole countries, know. And
Trump was no outlier.
Yeah, he was. And I think we often get caught up in that because he was an outlier with regard to how he carried himself.
Right.
But
his
how he
character.
operated
is
different than, Barack was bombing little girls in other countries too. And so was Kennedy and Ford and, Reagan, it doesn't stop with him. So I just think that how do we navigate, especially as parents and especially as parents of women, is that we have to be the type of men that we would want our daughters to be with, you know, and have to be the type of men that we would want young men to aspire to be, so that we can have suitable mates for our daughters, if that's even what they choose. I can't imagine being a woman right now and even wanting to deal with men, like even being around them. You know what I mean? Because it's that bad, especially because there hasn't been a strong fatherhood presence across the board. Patriarchy has sort of stunted our growth to a large extent, like really stunted our growth to where I think we grow really strong and one it's like a guy with a really big buff arm and the rest of his body is sickly. That's kind of, you know, our buff arm is productivity and maybe providing or getting money and creating business and being industrious, but at the expense of being compassionate and being good examples and being tender to each other, and not just women, but to each other in general. So it's a tough.
Amen.
My response has been really to be real with my daughters about what goes on in the world, and at least let them be able to walk into their decision making with their eyes open and a clear idea of what's really going on the board. I've never been one who would hide the realities of stuff. And then beyond that, like, I'm an entrepreneur. I work for myself. You know, I don't feel like I'm at the mercy of some sort of corporate strictures or restrictions. And so I encourage them to do the same, to be creative, own their creations, and make moves for themselves. But it's hard to navigate right now. And it's probably always been hard, but I think the more we are being made aware of just how dangerous it is, an environment is for women in general, people in general, but women especially here, and the fact that we're not doing anything about it. In fact, we're rewarding sexual predators. We're making them Supreme Court justices. We're making them federal judges. We're making them presidents. We're letting them retain CEOships of companies and things like that. I don't know. Like, my kids are in martial arts. My kids, hopefully both of them, before they're married, will have their own properties and things of this nature. So they're not at the mercy of patriarchy or a man in the micro sense. In the macro sense, it's going to take, you know, centuries probably to dismantle this stuff.
But they're interwoven, and you speak so well about the systemic issues whilst also modeling, you know, on a micro level. I think that what you're doing with your daughters is remarkable, and that to me is the evolution and the possibility and the hope I have through platforms like this, and so much emergent storytelling that's going on all over the world, and culture of any format presents I mean, fortunately now we have with the internet and the digital age, we have the scale and velocity to impact people in really transformative and at high speeds. Of course, whether we meet the crises at the speed of you know, that those are moving. But yeah, I really want to acknowledge and honor what you just said, and reiterate that I just couldn't agree more that it not only is it dangerous for women, but the antidote and the answer and dangerous for, like you said, for all of us living in a system that would lift up such corruption and lack of leadership, so to speak. The answer is modeling the change. It's hard work. How do you get up every day? I mean, you've really carved an incredible lane for you and for your family and your community. And there's so many of us that are inspired by that kind of leadership, Tajay. And I just want to get a little bit of your insight. Like, what is it that sparks you in the morning? What do you get excited by? You know, what's your motivations? How do you get through all that noise that you spoke to, you know, to get up and contribute and create at the level that you do?
I don't know. I think I draw from everyday experiences and just like, I've turned my hobbies into businesses. which is cool in one respect, but it's more like the spirit of fun, the spirit of creation is not even much deeper than that. Like I make songs when I feel like making songs. I don't know if anyone will ever hear them. So it's not, like it's so inundated and so just overwhelming the amount of content that we're producing right now. I don't do it really to get heard. It's just more like therapeutic and fun.
Before we get into that, though, I wanted to take a moment for all the parents out there. If you're anything like my family, we struggle with the post-apocalyptic news and stresses of our modern, uncertain world. We often need help communicating, taking time away from it all, or simply processing everything in compassionate ways for ourselves. That's why I've developed this toolkit of self-care products created for the modern family. From a parenting journal with a year's worth of mindful prompts, to family organic tree growing kits, to family dance party music, my team and I are so honored to offer these fun and valuable gifts to you and your family at this time. Plus, you're gonna love the book that started it all and the companion coaching program for those who wish to be a guide for others in this critical work. More on that soon, though. Anyways, please hop over to my website, aaronableman.com, to take a look at my offerings and products for you and the kids.
My everyday is really to make sure that my legacy, as far as my kids are healthy, my kids are safe, their college is paid for, their future is laid out, so it's a lot easier than mine was. So their lives are a lot easier than mine was. And then to make sure that I don't lose my mind or lose myself trying to just be a provider. So it's really just like spirit of fun, spirit of creation, and making sure that my legacy is on stable ground. Beyond that, It's not really that deep, man. I just, I write rhymes about whatever the beat makes me feel. Like it's not like I'm like, oh, I need to do this because of this. It's literally like, oh shit, I got a couple hours. Let me turn on some beats and write some raps. Like that sounds fun.
And people respond to that. It's just authentic joy, that fun, that creativity. That's some of the original mission of hip hop, or not even mission, but just, what is it? Peace, love, unity, and having fun, right? So I remember working with Mos Def. I actually had a chance to work with Yasin Bey, and he always just emphasized, hey, if you're not having fun, if you're not cultivating and bringing that joyful, just that fun party. There's many different ways of exploring fun. Yeah, I'm curious. You do have such a prolific output, and I also resonate with just, hey, let me follow what feels right, what feels good. It doesn't have to be a part of some master strategic business plan, even though, of course, it's gotta. I mean, you've also established your voice. But I'm curious, what's on the horizon for you? What are you excited about moving into this next phase, this next chapter? Here we're in 2021. We've got we're excited. I want to definitely share with my listeners as to what you have popping off coming up.
So I think my plans for the short term are this. I've got 3 albums I'm working on. One is called Black Hoodie Chronicles, which is the second installment of the rap noir kind of thing. And I've got the rap noir movie, which is basically the sort of audio book that goes with the visual that goes with the audio of rap noir. And then I'm working on an album with the architect. Our group is called Tajai and the Architect, and the album is called Black Tech. So that's almost done, and that's going to come out soonest. And I'm also working on an album with Breakbeat Lou. I think we're going to call it The Hop. And Breakbeat Lou is like a legend. Like he created the Ultimate Beats and Breaks series, which, like some crazy 70% of hip hop was made from some crazy number.
Yeah.
So there's a guy who's world-renowned sort of record
Yeah.
guy who now is like a producer. Not now is like a producer, but now is coming out producing stuff. He has an album with Opio he's about to drop called Hip Hop Volume 1. And then my record is going to be called The Hop. I'm also making a bunch of stuff with my buddy X Mike Malin, and it's I think we're calling it Epic Zone Volume 1 through Infinity. So we're just going to keep dropping EPs. And that's about it, really. I have a hotel down in Panama called Hotel Hibiscus Garden that I'm going to be doing a bunch of upgrades to. We might rebrand, but right now I'm just doing some building out of that. And that's it. So concentrating on the hotel, dropping these 3 records, dropping the Rap Noir movie, which is, rap silent film. And, I teach jujitsu to kids. So really trying to.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear that. The martial arts system is so dope. I've had some experience in that world, and it really helped me.
I started off as a student, but as I get older, just for same thing, sort of legacy's sake. Obviously, I teach my kids, but I also like to teach other kids. I would love to at some point just move to Panama, teach jujitsu, surf, do yoga, etc. at my hotel, and make music in my meantime. I'm 45, so I'm not about to I'm probably going to retire in about 5 years just from everything except probably being a hotelier and a father and stuff like that. I plan to have more kids, so that's cool. But teaching kids is really fun. It helps me with my patience. Mm-hmm. It's good to watch kids grow and thrive through a physical activity, and I enjoy it. So I work for I work for Iron Wave Dojo, and I work for Empty Cup Dojo. So 2 different dojos teach the same style. It's just two teachers. One is I work under Grandmaster Anton Muhammad, and the other I work under Shihan Ikwe Matthews. So
wow, that's amazing. One quick question on that, which maybe is a longer answer, but how can dads out there, fathers in particular, I was going to say new fathers in particular, how can folks that are just coming into fatherhood cultivate patience and a sense of that kind of dedication, conviction that you spoke to around, just being there for family life, no matter what your family situation might be? You have any words of wisdom on that?
I'm not very patient, so I would think that really it would be.
Maybe that's why I asked you.
Treating your kid like you were babysitting somebody else's kid. Would you beat somebody else's kid? Would you scream and yell at somebody else's kid? Because at some point you're going to be accountable for that, right? Somebody's going to come and say, well, hey, how was it, to the kid? And what, are you going to glare at them and hope they don't tell the truth about how you acted? So maybe, I'm not saying treating somebody like they're not your child, but why would you treat your child worse than you would treat a stranger? So try to remember that. I don't know. You treating people how you want to be treated, but really treating a child. Why would you ever treat your child worse than you would treat a stranger? You're not going to go up to somebody in the streets and scream at them. You're not going to grab them. You're not going to hit them. You're not going to, try to hurt their self-esteem or talk about their other parent or anything like that. Like, you wouldn't do that to a stranger's kid. So why would you do it to your own? It's difficult. Being patient is difficult. Like, I'm a rapper, so I have a loud, strong voice. So for me, having daughters, oftentimes I think they do fear me because of how I'm interacting with them. And I always feel bad afterwards. But during the moment, it's hard to check myself. Like, wait, why are you screaming at this kid? Even though sometimes they do stuff that needs a scream.
Discipline is needed. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but you got to be disciplined too, enough to be like, well, is me screaming gonna fix the problem? Because I think if you do it calmly, you'll probably get a better result.
Yeah.
So that's my daily struggle, dealing with especially my younger child. My oldest child I didn't have to do that much with, but my youngest, she's just kind of will do the same thing over and over and over again, where you're just like, yo, why am I asking you for the 11th day in a row to stop leaving pencils on? Somebody could really hurt themselves. It's almost like kids don't get it. And I don't know. Life is experiential. So maybe she has to step on a pencil one day to realize, oh my God, I shouldn't leave this pencil on the ground. And that's something we probably all did. It's not something that, but we don't remember.
Right.
Like, So just try, I said, treat somebody as nicely as you would treat a stranger at the base level. Like, you're not going to run up on a stranger and scream on them. You're not going to run up on a stranger and smack them. You're not gonna call a stranger stupid just because they don't understand something. You're not gonna curse at a stranger. You know, you wouldn't do any of that stuff. So why are you doing it to somebody who came out of your body?
Yeah, right, exactly. And that's such a great reminder and a great reference, because from my perspective, I think that so much good parenting can, when we get, and it's natural, every parent is going to fall out of patience, and just that we learn through failure, and failure is hard to witness over and over, and hard to just be this patient Buddha there in witness to so much trial and tribulation and growth for these children. But thanks for that reminder, and I'm going to take that one to heart. Definitely want our listeners to do the same. And just before we get out of here, because I want to let you go, any closing, I mean, that was a closing nugget offering right there. But anything that you'd like to say before we jump out of here, special messages, any words of encouragement for the families out there listening in?
I would say to any parent, being a parent is the most important job you have on earth, period. Like, period. There's no more important job. I understand that if you fail at your employment, then it makes it hard for you to be a parent because you don't have anywhere to live. You don't have food in your refrigerator, things of this nature. However, you're the most important job. And I would say, your spiritual cultivation, right? Because if the soul is infinite, you don't want to be a really good person, really good at this earth stuff and not think about the stuff that goes on after earth. So spiritual cultivation, but really, like, being a parent is the most important job any human can have. I mean, period. So treat it like that. Like, read up on it, learn new techniques, practice. You know what I mean? Like, and don't be so hard on yourself when you fail. Just don't keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again. And then I would just say, your family, like, the family is a microcosm of society. So raise your family how you would like them to, like society to be. Like, society right now is completely insane. And if you're trying to raise your kids just to manage in this society, you're going to raise an insane child. So raise your kids how you think you would like society to be, so that even if society is not compassionate, you want to teach your kids compassion. And if they get hurt out in society, that doesn't matter. If they're moving with compassion, it's not going to hurt for too long. That doesn't mean be stupid. Teach your kids to trust people blindly and those things. But treat your home society how you would like society to be, not like how society is. Don't come home after getting yelled at by your boss and then be a tyrant at your house too, because the cycle is just going to continue. So, my house, I try to make it peaceful. Yeah. Try to make sure my house is peaceful. Try to make sure my house is clean. Make sure that the kids never have to worry about their basic needs. Because this is something I talk to about when I talk about my kids and their contract with the family. It's like, do you ever have to look for toilet paper and it's not there? Do you ever have to, like, if you're hungry, do you ever have to open the refrigerator and worry about what you're going to eat? Do you ever have to worry about doing work by candlelight because the lights aren't on? Do you ever have to worry about where you're going to sleep? Well, these are things that I'm taking care of, not for myself, for you. I'm good. I'm growing. I don't need all this stuff. These are all for you. So uphold your end. Keep things clean. Do your work. Be respectful. Do your chores. Be helpful. Around the house and these things. But just try to make sure that your home is a reflection of how you would like your society to be. Like, we got meditation space in our home. We got instruments. We have, we got outdoor stuff, and gardening and those things. I mean, we've got a TV, but that's not like the center of the home. And I don't buy like a lot of pre-made food. So I'm my daughter's like a great chef at 9, like, they know how to cook for themselves and these things. But try to provide all the things that you think society should be about, right? And this is within your means. I'm speaking from an incredible space of privilege, as I've been rapping for 30 years nearly. So I have, and I have education. So I have access to a lot of resources. But I say, if you take care of the basics and don't have all the embellishments, so you might not have, I don't have cable, like, I don't have, like, my kids wear hand-me-downs. Like, so what? They
Yeah.
as they get older, it's called thrifting, right?
Yeah.
As they get older, it's called thrifting. I remember as a kid, me wearing hand-me-downs, I felt some sort of weird shame about it. My kids are happy. I come home with a bag of clothes from their cousins or from wherever, and we go through it. They're happy. It's just clothes to them. But that's part of how I raised my family. Like, no, one of the things we're not going to do is just go shopping and spend hell of money on clothing. It's just what you cover your body with, and there's a lot of good used stuff. I mean, to the point where I doubt my older daughter ever goes to the mall. Like, any of them. The oldest, like, they go for like underwear and socks and necessities, but for the most part, thrift. They trade with their friends, and they use their money for other stuff. So it's not about necessarily having hella dough. Even basic foods and stuff. Like, people say it's hard to be vegan, it's hard to be vegetarian, it's hard to eat healthy. No, if you're trying to buy like Impossible burgers and things of this nature all the time, it's expensive. But if you're trying to buy like vegetables and flour and grains or whatever, these things in their raw form, and you learn to cook with them and stuff, it's way, way cheaper. So when I'm saying provide the basics, it's a lot more simple than what I think people think. Like, I know it's hard, and I know making ends meet is tough, but it's a lot more simple if you simplify that stuff. And then all the embellishments is what's expensive. Yeah, having 4 cell phones, that's $400 a month that you're paying, on some kind of family plan or something. Having cable, that's another few $100s. And then I spend my extra money that I save on all that stuff on like enrichment, on maybe a piano teacher or a trip or, surf lessons or, these things. So live simply and make your house a microcosm of what you want society to be, not what you think society is or expects of you. And treat your home is yours. Like, treat it like, don't run it like a dictator, but treat it like it's your thing. This is the most important thing. And I think if you do that, you'll find that your kids are going to carry themselves and move about in the world in a whole different way than, say, what the world expects them to, because that probably isn't based on your values or how you even see the world. It's just kind of something we conform to because we feel like we have to, go along to get along. And you don't have to with regard to your household.
That's beautiful. Wow. It's so much there. And I love that you spoke to all ends of the spectrum. No matter where we are, we can apply those principles. And no matter,
people have done so much more with so much less, right? Like,
exactly. That's exactly right.
So much less. Like, even us there weren't all these trinkets. Like, your kid didn't have 6 backpacks when you're done. Now they get free backpacks at school, like, people have done so much more with so much less, even within our lifetime, even us growing up. I think, like all this, like NAFTA and trade with China and all these things have made it so there's so many trinkets and little, tchotchkes and all this stuff that
I had 1 pair of shoe per year. That was what I was allowed. And my dad still to this day, he buys a pair of shoes for 10 years. He wears them for 10. He's crazy. I mean, he's a farmer and he's very, very much of a different cut altogether. But you're absolutely right that, and that's part of the myth of capitalism and consumerism is that, it's just, we're so enraptured and wrapped up in the hype and the marketing. And yet what we really need, exactly what you said, is these basics. And as parents, I just think that's such a great reminder. I loved everything that you just shared is so profound and so applicable and just real. It's what, learning those simple recipes that come directly from, as close to the source as possible, but recognizing, it's actually cheaper to have healthy food than it is to add all of those the trinkets and all that.
It's time consuming and that stuff too. But I'm like, okay, instead of spending a bunch of money on takeout or Uber Eats or whatever, buy a crock pot and buy an Instant Pot. And I'm telling you, like,
amen.
Dinner takes 20 minutes, no matter what it is. You're going to be eating a lot of stews and casseroles or, in a way that may not be necessarily how we eat now, but it's simplifying my life. Even now, I'm selling the house I live in to downsize right now, so that I can have more liquid capital to invest into, like my hotel. I'm trying to turn it into a wellness center, and all these things. Every time I'm trying to see how I can pull something out to have more life, and I think that's a good way to operate too, because we'll end up with a $10,000 mortgage, and you're by yourself in your house because your kids hate you, and you have no friends, and you have no time to do anything. And I see a lot of people like that, and people from the outside looking in think that's success. They look at that person like a successful person, and I don't think that that's the case.
Right. Start from the inside out. And that includes, in our own heart and mind, but then of course in the four walls of our homes, and let that reverberate out from I love that as a principle. The idea of what was the old bumper sticker? Live simply so that others can simply live too, because that's also looking out for the rest of us. It's like if we've
lost that completely, man. We've gone the opposite direction. Americans, not everybody. A lot of people are living simply worldwide. But what's weird is the more I travel and the more the cell phone and internet have become a thing, I'm going to places where they definitely don't have the resources to even live as complex as we do, but they start wanting this life because they see it through the internet.
Wow.
So although it's creating access, it's also creating a little bit of sadness too, because now it's like what you're missing kind of thing. But I think that for those of us in the nations where we can have the choice to live simply or not, the more of us who make that choice, the better off Earth is going to be. That's
right.
And I always tell my daughters, a few things we say, hey, where does beauty come from? Inside, always. Where does beauty come from? And the other thing is, I ask them, are they happy, whether they are or not, right? And if no matter what the answer is, my next question is, who decides whether or not you're happy?
Ooh.
So. But they don't like to hear that, especially when they're not happy.
Right.
That's probably me being an old jujitsu dad. Like, well, but I, why are you? At least it makes
in the long run.
Right? Yeah.
In the long run, they're gonna be thanking you. Wow, because that's deep. That is. Whoa. Okay, I'm gonna get those on my next T-shirt sequence for sure. and I will absolutely quote you. That's so fresh. And I'm so grateful for the wisdom, because that's what this is about. We share our learnings, our failures, our lessons, ways of improving, evolving this experiment called our families, which to me is paramount. It is the front lines. When people talk about, everywhere is the front lines, or we're supporting front lines community. Yeah, absolutely. There are those that are most vulnerable, and that's our priority. But also every family, I really believe that's where the buck stops. So I love your insight and the way that you've dedicated yourself and all of what you're doing. I'm so excited to stay in collaboration and in community with you, and to continue to be, furthering this mission, because we're all on this one human family spaceship Earth together at this point, and obviously the way things are going, we need some change. We need to remember, maybe it's just remembering some of these foundational ideas, because we do have them at our access.
Yeah, we've like complexed ourselves, made life so complex that we've forgotten certain things that are, like, I'm pretty sure universal as far as with humanity. But with all this information that we have in front of us, there's ways to get back to it. And with our basic needs being the same as a caveman's basic needs, the same as the first hominid's basic needs, we haven't changed so much that we can't revert back. And that doesn't mean, hey, let's live in caves. That means, hey, let's live more simply. Let's actually live and stop just being automatons and producers and these things. And I feel like the less I have and the less that I'm craving things, the better my life is. And the more that I remove from it, the better my life is, because I'm able to be present for the people around me a lot more.
Wow. That touches my heart for real, like the soul part of me, because of, yeah, just how dedicated I am in this world, and to hear that coming and reflected back, especially right now at such a critical point in human history. We really are at an inflection point as to whether or not we want
survive.
whether or not we want to survive. I mean, yeah, it's right. That's the Anthropocene has brought us to all the scientific statements, but the sixth mass extinction, and I think in large part is because we don't know how to respect ourselves and our families. How could that extend then to everything else that we're doing? Yeah. So big shout outs to you and for pioneering such an incredible path. And definitely really excited to put this episode out into the world and to circulate this good energy and this good wisdom. And I want to talk to you all day. I just want to kick it with you, to be honest.
Yeah, actually, let's hang out with our kids once everything becomes, I got vaccinated.
Please.
I bit the bullet, but
I did it too.
People need to be hanging out a lot more. I think that's one good thing that's going to come out of this, is that human interaction is going to be something we value again. Human interaction.
So I see that. I already see that. I see the depth of connection and the appreciation for life and one another, and just our, I love that. May there be more silver linings. You know what I mean? Like, let's just look for those. But this has been a special episode of Welcome to Earth podcast. And I want to thank Tajay for being an illustrious guest and sharing his story and his message, and really taking this to heart, and hope that you all do as well. That's about all I have for you today, so that we get out in time. Thank you for being on this ride with us.
Well, look, I enjoyed this convo. I think you're doing important work, man. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. I'm excited to unveil more of what this self-care movement looks like for families, and the book coming out for Father's Day, and we're looking at adapting to a series. So we're definitely going to be building. What's the best social media that folks can tune in with? I know we'll put that out on the socials.
I would say Instagram, it would be Pro Intel Company.
Okay.
And my website is Rap Noir Store, RAPNOIRSTORE, Rap Noir Store, .com.
Yep. rapnoirstore.com. Okay, check that out. And what, say the IG handle?
Pro Intel Company, like Pro Intel Co. So Pro Intel Companies. I would say that. I mean, I'm also Rap Noir on IG too.
Okay. You heard it here, folks. Definitely.
Hibiscusgarden.com for the hotel.
Okay, that's the hotel. Okay, amazing. That's so great. Yeah, really exciting work. Definitely tune in to check out all of that. And join me next week as we're diving into some more amazing topics in the family journey. You don't want to miss it. And in the meantime, definitely follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Welcome to Earth Show, for more parent-friendly, kid-approved content. This is Aaron Abelman, your guide for the Welcome to Earth podcast, officially unplugging y'all. Peace out.
Well, Earthlings, that's all I have for you today. Thank you for being on this ride with me. And more than that, thank you for being here for yourselves, your family. The next generation appreciates you. Join me next week as we dive into more amazing topics in everything family. You don't want to miss it. In the meantime, give us a follow on all the socials at Welcome to Earth Show and at Aaron Abelman for more parent-friendly, kid-approved content. This is Aaron Abelman, your guide for the Welcome to Earth podcast, officially unplugging. Peace.